Hey everyone, and welcome to the I'll Take a Glass podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Preston. No matter what's in it, grab a glass
And let's do life together. Thanks again for joining us this week, friends. Before we get started, we just wanted to say before the start of the podcast that our heart's greatest desire is to have honest conversations. And the mission of this podcast is to do it with friends, but also to have these honest conversations with love and with grace. And so we ask that as you listen to this episode, that you would do so with an open mind, as we have tried to do in recording it. And we just hope that it inspires you and that it brings awareness, but also that you know our hearts behind it. So we thank you for listening. Let's jump into it.
Yo, and we are back with another episode of the podcast. This one definitely near and dear to our hearts, and we are going to do our best in trying to provide some clarity, some context, and just kind of introduce you to the life of exactly what it looks like to be a coach and a teacher.
And how to support that.
And then how to support that in our schedules and your kids and all those things. Yep. Right. So in light of talking about coaching and teaching today, when you go to a game, obviously, like, you go to the game, you go to the baseball game, baseball park, whatever, you go to a football game, you're going to go to the concession stand. It's a must. You're getting a hot dog, right? My question is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes.
You're saying a hot dog is a sandwich.
I mean, I don't really know the true definition of a sandwich, but it's meat between two pieces of bread. So, yeah.
Okay, that's all it takes for you. Boom, meat between two pieces of bread, sandwich. But is a hot dog bun two pieces of bread?
It can be. I never get those things. Unless I have the split top, I never get those things to not rip. So I would say yes.
But by design, it's one piece of bread.
So what are you saying? It's between two slices, though?
I'm just providing some question to your thesis.
Okay, well, apparently everybody disagreed with me with the soup thing, so let's figure this one out, because I'm saying it's a sandwich. I don't know how else you would define a hot dog outside of just saying it's a hot dog. Like, is a hot dog in a league of its own? Like, is it its own little section?
Have an opinion. Stop dancing the line here. Have an opinion, stick to it. Let's build a house on that foundation.
My house is built on it's a sandwich.
Okay. Because it is meat inside of one piece of bread.
It's meat between bread. So let's just say that. It didn't have to be one piece, but it's between. Like, people talk about Oreo cookie sandwiches and all that. Like, how is an Oreo cookie a sandwich? Oh, it doesn't have meat in it, though. So I guess
we were building our house on sand here, people.
Okay, here, I'm saying it's a sandwich because it is one item smushed between two of the same.
All right. So we have a pizza place, Fat Boys Pizza, not far, make huge. They sell pizza, I guess, New York style by the slice, right?
Right.
That's a giant slice of pizza. If I fold my pizza in half to eat it, I have now made a pizza sandwich.
No, you didn't put anything new in between. It's just folded. It's the same thing folded.
All of the items on my pizza.
You didn't put anything. No, but you didn't put anything new in the middle. Like, there's nothing There's nothing defining the split or the fold. Like, nothing in between the fold.
The sauce, the cheese, the toppings.
But it's supposed to be that way. I'm saying no to that.
All right.
But you know what? I don't see you giving your little opinion and building your house on nothing.
Based on your theory, how is a hot dog as a sandwich different than a hard shell taco or a soft shell taco?
This is requiring too much of me.
So are those sandwiches?
This is requiring too much of me.
Is the quesadilla a sandwich?
No, it's a cake. You know what? It's a hot dog. We're just gonna go with that. I can't. It's too much. All right.
I would say a hot dog is in a different category than a sandwich. I would not put it in the sandwich category. No way I'm saying it's a sandwich.
Okay, well, you know what? We don't even eat hot dogs enough to have this conversation in this kind of depth. So I don't care what topic it's in or what subject it's in, it's still edible. And I do like food, so we're going to go with that. It's all the same when I eat it in my belly. All right. All right. So, as P mentioned, we are talking about teachers and coaches. We are going to try to be as careful with our words as we can because we really are just doing this to provide perspective in hopes that people will understand what it looks like in the day in life of a teacher and a coach, but also to provide more support like we talked about. Because this is not new information. Teachers and coaches, there's like a huge shortage. People are leaving the profession left and right. And I have a few theories as to why, but I know why. Most people say they're leaving, and I get it. Like, they get more time with their families and make more money with less time to give working toward whatever it is that they have to do for their job. That's mainly what people have told me.
Right. You can make more money in other places and not have to work as much.
Right. And then the other side of that is there's a lot of coaches leaving, and it's kind of the same situation. So,
right.
How about you hash out a little bit of what it looks like? You can hash out what it looks like to be a coach and a teacher, like just a normal day. Well, I don't want to even say a normal day, but kind of give
like
some...
a day in the life of like high school football has started, day in the life of a coach.
Yeah, any coach, not just football. But yeah, we can do football since you're a football coach.
Yeah, make it personal.
Yeah.
Right.
Go for it.
So our school day starts at 8:15. The teachers are expected to be at the school by 7:30 every day. So a normal day, I usually take the youngest two to daycare. So I'm up about 5 o'clock, 5:15, getting ready, wake them up around 5:45-ish, because we have got to be out of the house by 6:40. If we're not out of the house by 6:40, I will not make it to school by 7:30, just in taking them, getting them dropped off and set up at daycare. So we're out of the house by 6:40. I'm dropping them off at their daycare, getting up to the school, and then day starts as just normal, regular school day. Probably how everyone listening to this experienced high school or experiences high school. Go through my teaching load, sprinkle some athletics in there. So I'll have an athletic period and halfway through the day. The rest of those I'm teaching classes, and then finish the day in athletics. That's our freshman athletic period. And then from there, we're straight into practice. So we're after school practice. So our school day, our final bell rings at 3:40. And so we go straight into practice from there. Kids are getting down there. We're hurrying up and getting them changed so we can get out onto the field. We practice, depending on the day, for about 2.5 hours to 2 hours. And so we start practice about 4:15. We're usually walking off the field somewhere between 6:30 to 6:45. And then at that point, it's about getting all the kids inside, changed, and coaches cannot leave until all kids are out of the building and in vehicles going home. Mm-hmm. If any of the kids are hanging out, we're up there hanging out until they're home. And then in a lot of times, like, we will meet then as a staff or whatever after kids leave. So I'm usually in my vehicle headed home around 7:45, 8 o'clock on practice nights, getting home in time to kiss babies and get them down and see them for just a second, and then hang out with Tay, hang out with you, and then it's rinse, wash, repeat. Same thing the next day. Game night obviously is longer. I won't get home till everybody's in bed, even the home games, close games. And then Saturdays and Sundays, I'm working both of those days too. Both of those are essentially half days, but working the morning of Saturday and then the evening of Sunday. And so that's what a week looks like. It gets a little bit better outside of football season in terms of the time. Still the same morning process, but I'm not getting home as late. Usually home after workout or whatever we've got after school, usually home a lot closer, about 5:30. And then summer is way lighter, way less demanding, but still demands. Monday through Thursday, we're up at the school from about 8 to noon, so 7:30 to noon, and we're working our kids out, summer strength and conditioning, getting ready for football season in the fall, clinics, camps, all that stuff happens in the summer.
All right. Like this summer, I've worked every single day this past summer. So, that's pretty much the gist of it. The game nights, like you have alluded to, are super long. So, and then that's the coaching side of it. So coaches pretty much are working, and then you get home and you have to watch film and you're doing scout team stuff. Like you're doing all of that because that's what's going to help make us successful and our team successful. But teachers get home and they're grading, and mind you, coaches still have to teach. So it's not like we're just like, we don't have other responsibilities.
Right.
Like we have, depending on what subject area we're in, or if you're in special education, you have caseloads and you have things like that you have to prepare for. So like we're working all kinds of hours. And so there's a high demand from us on a daily basis.
Yeah, a lot of expectation.
Right. And you have to meet those because that's your job. But I also have had to put boundaries around stuff, which we'll talk about later in the episode. I've had to put boundaries up because we have a family of our own.
Right.
And so like it's my responsibility to invest in kids and things like that because that's what I decided to do as a coach and a teacher. But also got to invest in my own. And sometimes like I think people expect, getting into kind of the nitty gritty, people expect like immediate answers when it comes to emails and stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa, like at the beginning, I basically set a standard and say, like, I'll get back to you as soon as I can, but I will not respond after a certain time during the day.
Right.
And that's because I had to put up boundaries because that's what my family needs from me. And they're the most important thing in my life. And so I basically have had to do that and set up those boundaries to say from the jump, from the beginning, like, you get until I start earlier, you get till 3:00, and then I'll respond as soon as I can the next day that we're at school. Yeah. Because that's a boundary I have to put in place to make sure that I'm giving my family what they need. So, I mean, it's high demands, which I feel like most professions are. Like that's part of it, which is why it requires you to set boundaries. And then also, I feel like there's a side of it that requires people to respect those boundaries too. Right. And
No doubt. I will say before we continue, if you hear nothing else on this podcast, this episode, I want you to hear from 2 educators and 2 coaches. Like if you are a parent listening to this, we want nothing more than to see your child succeed, whatever success looks like. Whether that is on the field, whether that is in the classroom, whether that is preparing for post-secondary. Like Randall, we have the high school I work at, we have welding programs, we have agriculture and business programs, we have culinary classes, we have all these different things that maybe it's not college, maybe it's preparing for trade school, maybe it's preparing for the Army or the military, right? Whatever your child deems as their mark of success, the goals that they have, we want that for them. That's why we are in this profession. Right. And like, that is the biggest thing you need to hear. Like I think sometimes it can get lost in translation that, this teacher's just out to get kids or out to get me. Like, I think at the end of the day, all layers off, the bottom line foundation is we want to see your specific kids succeed.
Right. I would say most teachers and coaches that I know want that. Like, I haven't really I can't think of anybody that I've met that just gets in it just for the fun of it. Because you don't just get into this just because it's something you can do with your time. Like you truly want to invest in kids. Like most people do. I will say that. Now there's rare cases, but just even then, like kind of inserting my parental experience, I had to, like, there was a situation with Blakeland and a teacher, and I tried to take a few steps back and didn't say anything. And then at one point I kind of was like, all right, like, I'm addressing this. Like, I'm going to step in and say something. Now, granted, she's pre-K at the time, so she needs someone to advocate for her. But I had to kind of check myself after and go, okay, like once instead of like coming to the teacher the way that I should have, I sent an email. Like to me, that was mistake number one. Because when it comes to your own kids, like you're protective over them. That's what you do.
Naturally.
Right. And so I think when I take the time to just meet with her instead and to hear her perspective, like what I ultimately learned is that she was really trying to guide her and provide her the social skills and the skills that she needs to be successful in life. And she was doing it not in a way that I necessarily do it, but in a way that was still helping her and building her up. And so I had to go, okay, as a parent, like it is my job instead to also teach Blakelyn how to advocate for herself, and to this extent there's a level of it with her age, but I have to help her understand like there are going to be ways that she experiences life and in different ways that people teach her that, but as long as they're building her up and lifting her up, it may not be the outcome that she wants, but there is still a level of learning perspective in that.
And I think that comes down to like people's methodologies are different. And so we all want the same end goal, but the way that I get there might be different than the way that you get there. It might be different than the way that he or she gets there, right? And so I think that's what this kind of boils down to is like sometimes there's a clash just in methodologies, and if we could take a step back from that and say, all right, even though the method is different, our end goal is the same, it might be beneficial that not everybody is teaching or instructing the exact same way,
or the way that you do,
or exactly. And so they're like just being exposed to different ways of teaching and things of that nature is beneficial. And so I think that's one of the big fallouts or kind of miscommunication areas is it's just a difference in methodologies. Yeah. And that's not saying that one way is better than another. And that's not saying that as a parent, you shouldn't have the right or opinions or whatever on how, like what's appropriate or inappropriate or what have you with how your kid is being instructed. I'm just saying, for me, at least, like I want to see your kid succeed.
Yeah. And part of it too is kind of coming from the side of, like you said, there's different methods and perspective, but that's a reason why I don't want to coach our girls until they get to high school, because I want them to experience what it's like to be coached under different people and to handle hard things and to build them up and to teach them how to handle those, because they may not get the playing time that they want, but I've got to teach them how to get there. They may not get the grade that they wanted, but I've got to teach them how to earn that. Does that make sense what I'm saying? No. And so, and that's the other thing too, like just coming from that perspective, I spent a lot of time preparing to be a high school teacher and coach. Like I've put myself in positions, I've invested and spent a ton of hours in growing myself as a teacher, growing myself as a coach, making sure I have the certification, making sure I have the experience, like having the correct mentors to help me with that. Like I've put a lot of time into this. I've not put a lot of time into being a preschool teacher. So the way that she was handling it was honestly beneficial for that age because she had put the time into it. And so I had to go, like, I can't, while we might be in the same profession, I can't sit here and speak to what she should be doing because I didn't put the time into that kind of, into that area, into that profession. Like, it's the same reason I'm not going to call somebody else up at a company or whatever and be like, you should be running your logistics this way. It's like, I don't know what I'm talking about in that way. Like, I haven't put the time into it.
No doubt.
And so I had to take a step back and go, okay, what are ways that she and I can partner together? Because in sitting down and talking to her, and in that meeting, I stepped into the meeting saying, okay, I'm going to try to give her the benefit of a doubt. And in doing that and changing my mindset before that meeting, she was able to give me perspective to change, to help me understand that it was a partnership. And we talked about solutions and how to partner together rather than me painting this picture that she's the enemy trying to do something like that's harmful to my kid. Like that wasn't the case. Yeah. And you were in that meeting with me. And so there was a support system in that way too. And so I think that's super important is to understand, like, at least for me as a parent, I'm speaking as a parent at this point, like not even as a coach or a teacher, to say, I have to give that teacher the benefit of the doubt from the beginning and then take the necessary steps to find a solution. And if we still don't get there, then okay, like I can look into other options. Right. But while this episode is to bring some perspective on our side of things, I also think it's important for us to make sure we are addressing how teachers and coaches can partner with parents too, and not just make it seem like we're one-sided, but we are coming from both perspectives because we both are parents and we both are coaches and teachers. And so just some things that we have also discussed in terms of how coaches and teachers can partner with parents is, one, like you mentioned before, and I'm sure you'll speak to later in this episode, is just honoring timelines of parents and understanding that there's an element to where they have things as well. So we want to honor them in that regard when it comes to coaching and just events. Another thing in both sides of it is just being willing to listen. I think as coaches specifically, and even as teachers, there's a specific vision that we have, and it is up to us to communicate that vision and push that vision. And so I think we still need to take the time to listen to parents and their concerns. And if it doesn't line up with the vision, it doesn't. And, you know, that's our job and our role is to make sure that we are pushing our programs and things like that toward the vision. But at the end of the day, parents sometimes just want to be heard. Most of the time, they just want to be heard. And so I think that is something else that we have to do, is just be open-minded and listening to their concerns and trying to address those concerns in a respectable way. And then something else is just making sure we're communicating. I know that as a parent and even as a professional, I try to make sure I'm communicating. And so we want to make sure that as coaches and teachers, we are communicating with parents, whether good or bad. Just like we want to hear good things, parents want to hear good things. And so it's nothing for us to just send out a quick email or, like I said, make a quick phone call to say, hey, so-and-so is doing awesome. And that just kind of builds that relationship in an intangible way. And then I also alluded to this, but just making sure that we're empathizing with parents when we can, and just understanding that they want the best for their kid, but we also have to help them. We have a role and responsibility to help those kids handle hard things, to help them navigate things, to help them advocate for themselves, and partnering with parents to do that. And I think last but not least in this is parents and coaches and teachers. We all have to remember that it is our job and our role to keep what's best for the kid first. And so we've got to set our own agendas aside as parents. We have to set our own agendas aside as coaches and teachers and understand that we have a role to serve the kids and to put their needs first. And so I think that's one other thing that we can do. But I'm sure we'll speak to more of this and elaborate as well as we continue the episode. I think that's really where the disconnect is. And a lot of coaches and teachers, like, I feel like just the amount of emails and stuff we get, it's like just wanting to give people the benefit of the doubt and wanting people to give me the benefit of a doubt. Like, I work super hard in both areas. Like, I really put a lot of time into it. And so imagine putting so much time into it. And then it's like, there are times where the picture is painted that I could, like, I'm not doing my job right, and there's so many more elements to it.
Or like you said a second ago, all the preparation that you've done to put yourself in the position that you're in today, and right. Every move you make or every decision that you make, you're getting questioned. Right. And that's just difficult.
Right. No, that's hard. And so I've really had to figure out what that looks like from a teaching and a coaching perspective, and how to respond in a way that's like, hey, I'm for your kid. Like, I will always be for your kid, but also having a kind of a, in a sense, an empathetic side to me of saying, I get it. Like, I'm a parent. Like, I understand. Right. This is what I want for my kid too. I want the people who are investing in our kids' lives to have their best interests in mind. That's absolutely what I want. So I get that aspect of it too. And so it's kind of merging the two together of saying, okay, listen, this is what I want. I want the best for your kid, but also these are the boundaries that I have. Mm-hmm. And let's work together rather than working against each other. Yeah. But that's true for any profession, I would say. Yeah. I mean, so I heard, you have something else to add to that?
Yeah, I heard one just in talking in coaching circles. One of the coaches I know said that there's two jobs in America that everybody feels that they can do better than the person doing it: high school coaches and the president. Mm. And so if you take time to think about that, like, whatever your profession is, I bet it doesn't get questioned near as much as what I call on a Friday night during a game. Right. everybody in the stands, everybody involved, everybody watching thinks that they can do a better job than I can. And then obviously the president, like everybody constantly questions the president, and that's kind of a obviously lighthearted joke or whatever, but there is some truth to it. And so, I think that like from here, I guess the direction we're headed is like, first off, we want to partner with parents, right? And so as educators, like we said, we want to see your child succeed. And in doing that, we want to partner with you because we experience your kid. If there's no athletics, no extracurricular, no anything for 8 hours a day, if there's anything extra, I mean, it can be 10, 12, 15, 18 hours in a given day, right? And so in spending that much time with your kids, or just the next generation in general, if you don't have high school students or you don't have kids at all or anything, right? Like that we want to come alongside and partner with you because we are going to spend so much time with them.
Right.
And so I guess we're going to kind of lay out some of the ways that we feel that like the partnership can just be better, right? Or that can run smoothly from a teaching side, the educator side, and from the home side.
And also kind of provide teachers some ways that we've set some boundaries and how to help them too and advocate. So I would say that the first thing as just a support system, and you don't just have to be a parent, but someone who might be in the community of teachers. I mean, everybody lives in a community where there's a school. Like step number one is just providing emotional support in my mind. And the way that you do that is, to me, like there are different ways to do that. But for me, when I think about just emotional support, is just saying, hey, even if you see something good in a teacher, just saying, hey, I see you and I appreciate you. Like something simple like that, like support, like I feel like can serve as an emotional support for a teacher. And the other thing is, like we've been talking about, just giving them the benefit of a doubt and saying, hey, like I just have a few questions that I want to ask them, getting clarification instead of just coming in hot. Like I would say that's probably one for sure. Yeah.
I would say another big way is like be an active voting participant in your area. And I think that's just in general, but as it relates to education as well. Go vote in your county, go vote in your state, because representation matters. And so, I mean, obviously we are public educators, so we are going to vote on the side of public education every time. And so that is resources, that is job opportunities, that is upgrades, and it just allows educators to do their job more effectively and efficiently. And so we are going to vote that way, and we would ask you to just go vote, right? So I think however many years or every year, your school district, your community, your area will have different bond proposals, things of that nature. That is all to increase and build up and help better your child's educational system experience, whether that is, or your community, whether that is upgraded or better schooling equipment, things in the classroom, building, it's safety, it's athletics, it's just all things you don't even think about, like all things education. It is just to make education better in your specific area. Yeah. And so that's just one of the biggest ways, is just go vote. And it takes hardly any time at all. Go out and be an active voter in your community.
Yeah. I would also say, like, if you own a business and you have a resource, or you have things that you could donate to the school, like, or that you could provide the school, those kinds of resources. There are people listening who might be counselors. Like, you could, like, give, I don't know, discounted counseling opportunities. I don't know, but there are ways that you can be creative to help teachers and to help kids in general. And so donating resources, businesses that you might own, and it doesn't have to be money. It could be just resources that you have available to you.
People hear the word donate and naturally think, oh, they're asking for money. We're not.
Yeah.
Like, if that's what you have to offer, that's what you have to offer.
Right.
But I mean, the biggest thing, donate yourself. Like, give yourself to a volunteer opportunity or whatever it is. Again, that's just being active in the community.
Yeah. Or if a teacher has like I've seen, and I've done this, like an Amazon classroom wish list, like that's a way that you could help to provide, because ultimately that helps the kids. That's a step. Attending events, like community events, those are big deals because those are fundraiser opportunities a lot of times for different programs, and that helps build up the community and the kids, and just showing your appreciation. And again, it doesn't have to be in a monetary form, but I mean, a simple email goes a long way. A simple phone call goes a long way of just saying, hey, I see you and I appreciate you. Like, that's a big deal. Yep. And so showing your appreciation in that way, and just understanding too, I would say, like, having grace for teachers and understanding that, like, we have families too, because I think a lot of times people want us to be on their timeline, and there's an element to that where you got to understand that we have families too that we're trying to invest in and to make sure that we're giving our time to.
You definitely are hitting on the one that is a bit, like, probably the biggest one for me personally.
Yeah. You want to elaborate a little bit on it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's just big because, so, like, just to be very personal and give you again even more of a deep dive into my life as a coach and teacher. So we have it broken up as a football staff where we take shifts, and so different weeks after practice, the offensive staff or the defensive staff will stay. So it's the group of 6-7 coaches will stay after school or after practice and wait on every kid to get picked up. It seems to never fail that there will be a handful of kids that are at the school an hour and a half, sometimes 2 and 3 hours, no joke, after practice. Right. And we cannot leave until kids leave. We cannot leave kids there unattended.
And you can't take them home.
Not supposed to take them home. Right. And so I think sometimes the expectation is, oh, well, somebody will bring my kid home. Right. But it negatively impacts the adults that, okay, so again, making it personal for me, there have been nights in a season where I really don't get a whole lot of time at home with my family, that I'm supposed to see my kids before they go to bed. I'm supposed to be home in time to get a little bit of playtime and like read a book and put them down, but I'm not. And I miss that because I'm sitting at the school with someone else's child that they're not there. And I get, like, circumstances and crazy things happen. I get it. But it's 2.5 hours after practice. And so now I've missed out on my family tonight because nobody came to get this kid. Right. And so I think just honoring timelines is another huge one. Yeah. Honoring timelines, especially as it relates to extracurriculars, whether that is making sure kids get where they're supposed to be on time so that buses can leave or whatever. Like in my second sport, I'm a track coach. There are times that we have to leave really early because our track meet is a little bit of a distance away, and you have to get checked in and meetings start at a certain time, and you got to be on time, get camp set up, all the whole nine, right? Well, the bus has got to leave on time, right? You don't make up a whole lot of ground on a bus. And so it goes as fast as it goes. And so honoring timelines, I would say, is one of the biggest ways I feel like I would be supported as a coach. Yeah.
And it does affect, like, more than just that person, but also to the extent that, like, it puts us in a bad situation because you don't want to leave a kid up there.
Right.
Like that. I mean, at that point, like, and then there's procedures behind it where you have to call certain people. Like, it's a whole thing.
So here is in the state of Texas. I can't speak for every state. In the state of Texas, here is what is supposed to happen after X amount of minutes of a child not being picked up after practice. what is supposed to happen is the coach responsible for waiting calls the district police. The district police then drive to get the child. The child rides home in a police car, and then CPS report gets filed because now the child is left. Right. And so they were left in a place they weren't supposed to be because practice is over. Nobody came to get them. So now a CPS report gets written. As coaches, we don't want that. And so it's so much easier to try to accommodate and find a ride with another athlete, but that is what's supposed to happen. And I know, especially like in a crazy situation or a crazy circumstance type of deal, like you don't want a CPS report getting written because whatever happened and you weren't able to get your kid right. So that's what I would say is the biggest thing for me is honoring timelines. And I know that that's twofold. I know that there are coaches that go way over timeline, and now parents, you've been sitting in a parking lot for 45 minutes waiting on my kid to get out, and I'm still looking at them on the field.
Right.
But coach, you told me 5:30 was when they were getting done, and 6:15 they're outside still. Like, I've got things I got to do. I got places I've got to be. I know that that's twofold. Right. And so I don't just say that in terms of make sure you get your kid on time. I'm saying in this profession, timelines have to get honored better, in my opinion.
Yeah. I would say for teachers and coaches listening to this, I would say have hard cutoffs. I've started trying to implement that, making sure that at a specific time, I'm not working past that time. I get what I can get done. And it's because that's a way for me to honor my family and really for me to honor myself. And I can't be the healthiest version of me. And I can't be the healthiest version that I need to be in order to be successful in the profession to a certain extent if I don't have those hard cutoffs. And so I would say set up boundaries, whatever that looks like for you. For me, it's just saying from the beginning, being upfront with the parents I interact with, saying, this is the time I respond. This is why. This is because I have a family as well. And just saying, let's partner together. I want to do what's best for your kid. But if it's an emergency, here are emergency contacts that you can reach out to. But for me, it's saying being upfront with them from the beginning of what that looks like for me, because I have a family too. And then understanding too, that sometimes as teachers and coaches, it's going to require us to put our heads down and work more than we want to at times, but just making sure that we're defining boundaries that way too, and offsetting some of that and making sure that priorities stay priorities and we're investing in those areas in our life. But ultimately, I would say that we're both in this because I left the profession and came back to it. And I talk about all the time, like the feeling that I get on a game night or just being in the profession in general. Like, I love kids and I love this profession. And so I'm in it for the right reasons. I know you're in it for the right reasons. And a lot of coaches and teachers are. But I just think we can do a better job as a society of partnering together and giving each other grace and the benefit of a doubt and letting us do our jobs. But also coaches and teachers, like, it's on us to set boundaries too. And it's on us to say, like, here, like, to set boundaries in a way that's going to help us to remain healthy in both regards. So, and everybody has that, like, boundaries are good. Everybody sets those. And so I just think we really have to be careful in that area too. But I would say, I mean, that's pretty much what I have. We hope that this helped provide perspective more than anything, and helped we hope we shared our hearts enough for you and the people listening to understand, like, we love this profession. We love kids. We love doing what we do. And it's just easier to do what we do when we feel like we have the support and the resources available to us, as any profession is that way. And just hoping that people listening to this can understand how to better support and partner, how we as teachers and coaches can better partner with each other and support one another too. And so we hope that this was helpful, and that you got something out of it. So we'll see you next week. Check out our blog posts in relation to this, and we'll get with you next Thursday.
Peace.
That's it for our show today. Thanks for listening. Be sure to leave us a review and share this episode with a friend. Tune in next week for more fun and connection. In the meantime, don't forget to visit our website, view our blog, and connect with us on social media throughout the week. Don't forget to fill your glass this week. Share this episode with a friend and invite them to have a glass with us. We can't wait to hang out with you again. This episode is brought to you by Rambo Media. Thanks for tuning in.